So today we'll talk about product experience design, and it is such a complex process, and to demystify it, and the idea is how we can design better, and it is not better, but the best possible products for our users. So when we use the term product, it can be digital product like mobile apps or websites. It can be physical products, like we go to the store or order them from Amazon. It can be hybrid products as well, like the thermostat. And products are used in all types of domains. And for this talk, we'll try to anchor it in the healthcare domain. And we'll discuss about how to design we'll try to understand some of the challenges and how to design the best products possible for different stakeholders in the healthcare domain. So one of the things is when we think about products, it is much more than basic functionality. That's the foundation. In terms of healthcare, when we are thinking about designing products, we have to think about how to reduce, let us say, patients' stress, anxiety, how to enhance their confidence, their trust in the products. So the important thing is how the product can establish this emotional connect with the patients, clinicians, and the other stakeholders. So this will be a very interesting discussion, and I have a lot of things here for you, including some of the theories, frameworks, and if we have time, we can get into redesigning and health application. So let's get started. So we are talking about the design of products used in the healthcare domain. The cost of poor design can be disastrous for people, for the system in healthcare. Imagine if you were to, if let us say the clinician, the doctor prescribes because of the bad interface, they prescribe the wrong medication or the wrong dosage. It can be dangerous. It can even be fatal. In my job as a teacher, if I make a mistake, I have the flexibility to go back and tell my students, I'm so sorry I made a mistake. Or if you order things from Amazon, if they send you the wrong product, you can always send it back. They'll send you the right product. But in healthcare, we don't get very many chances. So there are several challenges in healthcare when it comes to designing products. And let us try to see from various perspectives and explore some of the challenges. Patient challenges. With the HITECH Act, it made it possible for health, for the healthcare system, for the healthcare institution to adopt health IT. With HIPAA, it made it possible for patients to have access to 24/7 access to health information with, of course, certain exceptions. Those are all great, but the way the information is presented to the patients, for example, in the patient portal, that can make a huge difference. So there is a very interesting article about patient portals in the Agency for Healthcare Research and Healthcare Research. So that is a government organization. And they talk about, because of the bad interface, patients, healthcare research and quality. Yes, that's the name. So because of the bad interface and patients struggle, And it leads to a lot of frustration and ultimately to abandonment of using these patient portals, which is such a wonderful, wonderful thing. The other thing, the other problem that they note in the article, because many of this, or most of this, patient portals are not really tailored based on the patient demographics and the health condition, that also create problems, right? So, so we as designers, we have to think about how to think and how to take care of these things, looking at it from the patient perspective, how to enhance their experience using or interacting with the systems. The clinicians also have their same set of challenges, well, a little different, but challenges. There is a information overload, for example, when they use this EHR systems, that is the electronic health record system, which all physicians nowadays use. And then there is the documentation burden that they have to input so many things into the system about the patient, the diagnosis, the recommendations, all kinds of things every time. And then there is the time pressure. So the doctors don't have the luxury of using as much time as they like with the patient. Imagine the situation. The doctor is asking the patient questions, trying to understand the symptoms, the problem, get to the root of it. At the same time, trying to understand, read up, understand the health history of the patient, and then thinking about the diagnosis. So in that situation, if the interface is not working right, then it can lead to frustration and it can lead to a burnout as well. The clinicians also have other challenges in terms of interoperability, that their system may not work or talk to other system. Maybe the patient use some other system. And there are other challenges, for example, cyber attacks. And when interface changes, the software company, for example, they change the interface, or the healthcare system introduce a new software tool, for example, they have to go through training. Where is the time? And now there is AI. So that might change the system as well. Now, medical facility challenges. When we are thinking about products, and what I was explaining, it can be a digital product, it can be a physical product, it can be hybrid as well. But it also includes facilities as well, like the design of the healthcare building, the facility itself. There was a very interesting study back in 1999 in the Institute of Medicine, and the name of the study of the report was "To Err is Human." And in that, they note two important things because of medical errors. One is the loss of lives, that is the patients, because of bad design. The other one is, of course, it costs the revenue, right? The economy. So if you think about the design of the facilities, because of poor design, there are so many serious injuries because of patient fall. And patient fall leading to the serious injuries because of two important things: the design of the railings and the design of the doors. And it costs the economy billions of dollars. We're at a point where Medicaid and Medicare, they refuse to reimburse for this type of injuries. And then, of course, the infections. The patient get infections in being in the facility. So that is also a serious concern because of the design of those facilities. And of course, there are other things with the tools, software they use, medication errors. Now, there is something called as technical debt. Think about software tools. When the companies, of course, their main focus is the bottom line, they try to do shortcuts, bypass certain steps. They're unethical, right? And there are technical problems in the system, but they still release it to the market. What happens? When people start using it, the problem doesn't stop, it grows, right? It is very similar when you're working and one is thinking about retirement, right? So we put away some money for retirement. If we invest it wisely, for example, S&P 500, let's say, and with the magic of compound interest, over time, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, it grows. Similarly, with this technical debt, the problem keeps growing. So that is a huge problem. Now, before we get into these frameworks, it is good to define and understand what we mean by design, what we mean by experience, what we mean by emotion. So let us start with design. The way we use this term design, it is not simply or just visual design. Many people think when they use the term design, it is visual design. That is just one of the components. The way we define design is to come up with a creative and innovative solution to problems or situations. In other words, how to elevate the human condition. How can we add value to human life? How can we improve the quality of human beings, right? It is not just the individual, but the same applies to society, the same applies to environment as well. So it is very inclusive. With experience, when we design a product as designers, it can be any product, right? You don't have to be in product design concentration. You can be data analytics, right? You're basically using a software product. So whatever the product may be, of course, with this experience design, there is another layer I don't think we'll have time to discuss about that. That is the service layer. That also is important. I believe in one of the talks, will be discussing about service design. So when we as designers create or design these products, we want our users to have the optimal experience, positive experience. But the thing about experience is this, it just doesn't happen automatically. The designer has to orchestrate it. The designer has to choreograph it. The designer has to intentionally plan for it. So if we think about when we purchase products, it is not just the product itself. We are also paying for the experience. Think about going to Starbucks to buy coffee, for example. I don't know how much it is, $5, $6. Is it really supposed to be that expensive? And people are happy to go to the stores and purchase because they love the experience, right? The thing about this experience is this. If you see from the perspective of human history, going back to hundreds of years, thousands of years, and during the agrarian society, agriculture was the main product. Then with Industrial Revolution, manufacturing was the main product. Then we had the service economy, and now we are in the experience economy. And if you look at the model of what these most successful or highly successful companies do, those companies which are very high up on this NPS score, that is a metric in customer satisfaction, Net Promoter Score. What it means is if you are to ask people which companies they would likely recommend, they will recommend certain companies over and over again. For example, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Ritz-Carlton, Costco, right? Other ones as well. What these successful companies have done, they have mastered the art of designing and delivering powerful, positive customer experiences. The product is great, but they also focus a lot. Equally important is the experience layer. And what they have done is not just to design these experiences once, but consistently over and over again, right? Think about, think about if you are to go to Whole Foods, right? The prices of products in Whole Foods, it's expensive, you know that. But think about how they design that store from the perspective of experience. Of course, depending on the time of the season, right? Which season we go to, they have beautiful flowers in front of the store. It already makes us feel good. We walk into the store, there are piles of colorful fruits, right? That makes us feel good. And then there are this kiosk where we can try, right? See how they engage all our different senses to make us feel good. And there is a scientific reason why they do that. And here is the thing. So one part of the mind is feeling good. The other part of the mind may be thinking, well, this product, I can buy it from my local supermarket. It would be way much cheaper. But then the side which is feeling good, the part of the mind saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And we keep on putting things in a basket. And here is the thing about the service. If you ask one of the staff there, employees, if you cannot find something, they are trained to be really nice with the customers. They will talk nice. They will walk you to the aisle, even pull the product and give it to you and ask you if you need anything else, they'll be happy to help. Compare it with Lowe's or Home Goods. If you cannot find a screw or something, right? They have a million products. And if you ask somebody, many times they would say, aisle 47, right? It doesn't help. So we have to think about that. So experience, when we are designing products, we want people to come back and purchase or use that product over and over again. The experience layer is critical. We also have to think about the emotion, because emotion is what drives action. When we feel happy, we do certain things. When we feel sad, we take certain decisions, right? When we are mad, angry, we make certain decisions. Emotion. So on the left, we have the emotional wheel, all different types of emotion, anger, sadness, joy, pleasure, right? There are two perspectives when it comes to emotion. One is the classical view. What it means is we as human beings, whatever emotions we have is innate. That means we are born with it, right? It is all hardwired or software in the brain, irrespective of whatever culture we are from. And Paul Ekman did a lot of research on that. And his conclusion was emotions are basically the same, doesn't matter what culture they are from, right? Across cultures. But then there is a new perspective. And in this new perspective, Lisa Feldman Barrett, she has a very new perspective. That is, she's from Northeastern University. So she argues that emotions are constructed based on the core affect, that is the feeling, right? Our past experiences, and based on our learning, the past experiences and culture. So think about this. If you are you are about to enter to take your final exam, right? SAT or something like that, GMAT, right? Maybe for some people, the palms would be sweating. That's a sign of they're anxious, right? If you get a gift, right, you are joyful, you're happy. So what she says is this, that the body sends these raw signals and the brain interprets them and puts a label this is joy, this is fear, or something based on the experiences, right? So something for us to think about. If emotions are constructed and emotions lead to our actions, we make decisions or actions based on emotions, most of us. Are these companies really using this formula to sell their stuff to us? Something for us to think about. Now let us explore a few frameworks. So the first one is Donald Norman's emotional design. Donald Norman, he's an authority when it comes to user experience design. And his, what I'm explaining about design, his design, idea of design is very broad, right? It applies to everything. So he has written a number of books and he has videos on YouTube. One of the classics is Designing for Everyday Things. And this framework is from his another book, which is Emotional Design. He talks about how the human mind works. There are three levels: visceral, behavioral, and reflective. What is visceral? Think about Apple product, for example, and you'll see how they apply or use these principles. When you open the box, even before opening the box, when you see the box, right, it is so well designed, it just makes you feel good, right? That is the visceral layer. That is what is hardwired to the brain. And you put the phone, you open the box and put the phone without anything on the palm, it just feels good, right? It feels wonderful. The form, it's just amazing. The next one is behavioral. When we interact with the phone, let's say, they focus so much on simplicity, minimalism, that it is easy to use. The last one, which is reflective, the takeaway. How does it help our identity, right? Does it establish trust, confidence in this product, device? So when we are designing products, we have to think about all these three layers, not just the base. There is another one, which is the experience stack, which is very similar. We have the utility, usability, engagement, emotional resonance, and meaning. The usability and utility is just the foundational. That is only half the story when we are designing products. The other half of the story is engagement, emotional resonance, and meaning. Think about you're a patient. You did your blood work, right? You got some sort of message, email or text message that your results are ready. And you log in. And then you see this raw data, triglyceride, certain number, A1C, something, cholesterol, something, right? It's all a lot of numbers, but it's difficult to understand this medical jargon, right? The next one, usability. They make it a little bit easier in terms of finding where the results is when you log in. Or maybe they, for cholesterol, they have a recommended range and use your numbers within that, below or higher, right? So engagement, is it enjoyable to use? That people can come back in terms of engaging with the interface itself, right? Emotional resonance, that is, we are appealing to the emotion then. Maybe your cholesterol level is a little bit higher than the recommended range. They can add a little bit language there. Your numbers, right, are a little bit higher than the recommended range, we suggest that you use these tips when you talk with your doctor. Some sort of reassurance, some sort of comfort in and the tone, the ways they construct the message, right? And meaning, with time, do you build the trust and the confidence to go back and use that system over and over again? So when we are designing systems, we have to think about these two halves. The first half is very much product centric on the product. The other half is basically designing the experience for the user's mind. They're two very distinct things. We also have to think about from the perspective of cognitive load. For those of you who have taken courses in psychology, right? So try to imagine a patient in this logged in to see the results, the blood work results. There's so many medical jargon and so many things the patient, regular people don't even understand. So they're processing that information, trying to understand. They have a health condition, for example, let's say. So that is intrinsic cognitive load to understand the material. And now, if there are too many visual elements or things which are not really that important, that is more a distraction. And that is the extraneous cognitive load that puts more pressure into process the information. And German is deep understanding of the material. So when designing products, we have to think about what is necessary, what is not necessary, because it puts load in processing information, and that too much load would lead to frustration, and it's not going to be a good experience. Now we talk about the hook model. It is a very interesting model, Nereal's hook model. And you will see many companies who have consumer products, they use this model. And the idea about this model is how to form habits. When the user or the customer, they form that habit of using that product, then that is all the companies want. You go back and purchase that product over and over again, right? So it has 4 components to it: trigger, action, reward, and investment. You might be thinking, why is that investment here? It is very interesting. So trigger has 2 things to it. Trigger is the actuator of human behavior. Think about a spark plug in a car. That is what starts the rest of the thing, right? We have external trigger and internal trigger. External, let us say you send an email with a link. Now click here to go and check your blood result, or an ad. This is great product, buy this. External. Internal is what comes from within. That is the best thing, right? Action. When it comes to action, now they want the user to do or take some action. There are 2 things: motivation and ability to perform the action. So what companies do to make it easier, right? They make it super easy for the users to take the action. That means in terms of the ability. And that becomes the motivation. The next one is the reward. So this one is not really a simple or regular feedback loop. What they want to create is a desire, a wanting for that product or service, right? So if you were to ask somebody to open the refrigerator door, and every time they open, there is the light on, that is boring. That's not interesting, because it's very predictable, right? There is a light. But imagine when they open, there is a special treat there, right? That is what creates the wanting. That is what creates the desire. But what really happens is the next one, the investment. But this one, this reward thing, it is very much similar to the Skinner box. When B.F. Skinner was doing is, it is all based on human psychology. So there is something, you can Google it up, Skinner box, B.F. Skinner, when he was at Harvard, and he was experimenting on rats and pigeons. They would click or press on different levers and something would happen, right? Now, when the individual is thinking about the reward, right? They're in a different state of mind. Why? Because what is happening in that moment, they are so happy and looking forward to. The brain releases a chemical, a hormone called as dopamine, feeling good. And when you are feeling good, very similar to the story I was sharing about Whole Foods, they're ready to do whatever the company asked them to do, right? Now they're saying you have to do something. Your dopamine is released, that's flowing in the brain, you're feeling good. The company is saying, give me a time, give me money, or something else. Think about social media, how they use this model so effectively. A little notification, right? And then we are there, ready to put in our time, hours at a stretch. And that's exactly what they want. The people who have created this software, this social media, they know exactly what they have done. They don't want to waste their time. They want us to waste our time. Somebody has a dinner picture, a nice outfit. We see those things, those meaningless things, right? How they hook us to the system. Very interesting. So the question is, if you're thinking about healthcare, how can we apply the strategies, right, in healthcare for the betterment of society, for the betterment of individuals and the environment as well? There is another one I will discuss about the flow state. This is equally interesting. So the flow state, this was coined by the Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi in 1975. He has written so many books. This one is the flow, right? Flow book. And he says, if we are thinking from the perspective of product design, whatever the product may be, can we take our users to that flow, to that state of mind, flow state? And what it is a state of mind when we are performing, actively performing, not passively, but actively performing, engaged in an activity, that we are so immersed and we are so much enjoying it and so much energized that we are happy, we're joyful, and we feel a sense of timelessness. We don't care about time, right? I'll give you two examples. When the little boy or the girl watching or playing video games, mommy or daddy would be calling them, come for dinner. They may be 15 feet away. But that doesn't register in their brain because they are so much immersed in this. Think about, let us say you love skiing and your dream is to ski in the Swiss Alps. The day comes, you have all your gears, you have your ticket, you fly there in the top of the mountain. You are skiing down. You are in the moment. You are in control. but there is a sense of timelessness, right? And you are enjoying every moment. You're happy. So that is what flow state means. It has certain characteristics. Of course, you need to have a goal, feedback, balance between skill and challenge. We'll talk about that. Complete concentration, sense of control. So this flow state can be applied in all domains. And if you Google flow state, you will see there are people who are consultants who understand this, and they help companies, corporations, trainings, education, all kinds of things. So how do we as designers, when we create our products, how do we take our users to that flow state? That is the optimal experience. When we say hot, hotter, hottest, that is the most optimal experience. So there are two things. One is the skill. The other one is the challenge involved in accomplish the activity. There are two things. Okay. So if there is something where the challenge is low, not very high, and the skill required to accomplish it very low as well, then it would lead to apathy, which is very low in the experience stack, right? But imagine your skill is high, but for the task, the challenge is very low. What happens? You are bored. Imagine if you had to take an exam, math exam. You expected difficult questions, but it's super, super easy. You got it done in 10, 15 minutes, right? You are bored. But imagine if the challenge is very high and your skill is low, that would lead to anxiety, right? So these are all the different situations, scenarios. And this is not really flow state. For flow state, imagine if the challenge is high and you are here in terms of your skill, not quite high, right? But you're ready to improve or enhance your skill. So when you are enhancing, going up and up to accomplish, you are in a state of arousal. You're feeling good, right? So flow state, basically, the sweet spot is when the challenge required for the activity is high and your skill is very high as well, right? Imagine you had to take some certain exam or something, accomplish. Your mom and dad says, if you accomplish this, I will buy for you a new iPhone or a new car or something. You work really, really hard and you accomplish it. That's a different feeling compared to somebody just gives you, oh, here is a car, here is an iPhone. It's different. We are talking about optimal experience. So why flow matters? Flow matters because it increases efficiency. It increases output. It makes people happy, job satisfaction. There was a very interesting study that was done by McKinsey, a 10-year study, in fact. And they found out CEOs, when they work, if they are in the state of flow state, they are much more efficient and they accomplish way much more. They're 5 times, the output is 5 times more. So what it means is this. If you as an individual, and if you're in the flow state, what you could accomplish in one day, somebody else who is not in the flow state would accomplish the same thing. It would take them 5 days, right? So there is a lot of potential of when we're engaging, when the users engage with a product, how they would be immersed, how they would be in this flow state. That is very critical to think about. So now let us think about how this flow state can be applied in healthcare situation. Think about a nurse who is in the flow state and enjoying his or her job, right? They can identify subtle changes in the patient and intervene very quickly. Imagine a surgeon who is performing a complex surgery, is in the state of flow, right? Is enjoying what is she doing. Without distraction, can be much more efficient. Imagine somebody going for therapy and trying to do those difficult exercises. But if the person is in the state of flow, it would be a rewarding experience for them. So this flow state, or this theory of flow, necessarily is not just applicable to individuals. It can be applied to organizations, institutions as well. To be more effective, to be more productive, when employees are happy, they have job satisfaction. Right? Think about a hospital where there is a long line queue of patients. If people are happy, they do their work on time, it goes faster. So this can be applied in different domains. And we can, of course, in today's world, use AI to make so many things a lot easier. But the focus should be on the flow state, how we can raise the bar. Now, when we were going over this hook model, with this, when somebody is thinking about a reward, the brain is producing or releasing this chemical, dopamine. In this flow state, the brain is really releasing 5 different chemicals. Right? It makes us feel good. Our creativity goes up, right? Improves our focus, blocks pain. So it is that state, wonderful state of focus, total focus, engagement. So we have to think about what we can do and how we can apply this in different domains for the good of individuals, once again, society and environment. Now, here is something for us to think about. If in our psychology courses, we study about this classic Pavlovian conditioning, Ivan Pavlov. He was doing his experiment with the dog, and when the right time, it would start salivating, and even hearing the footstep of the person would start thinking about food. Something for us to think about, that these companies, have they really understood how we work, how our minds work? And are they really using us? Are they manipulating us to purchase things, even though we are under the impression that we are individuals who make our own decisions? But are we really? Or are we being manipulated? Something for us to think about. Now, let us go over quick. How much time do we have? Okay, I'll try to quickly go over this quickly. So there are 2 case studies. One is Epic My Chart. Epic is a hugely popular EHR system used by health professionals. It is great, very popular, but there is information overload. So it is working at the utility and the usability, that space. How to make improvements so it emotionally connects with the users? That is something to think about to make it better. At the same time, if you download the Apple Health app, it is a very clean design. It is very user or patient-centered, minimalistic, right? This is the kind it empowers patients, builds trust and confidence in using the system. So this is the type of software we need. It doesn't have to be Apple, but when we are thinking about designing products, how it would help beyond just the functionality, build that trust, the confidence, right? Now, with the during COVID times in the healthcare space, telehealth was very popular. That is what used even after that as well. So we have to imagine the situation. The patient is far away using some sort of tool, software tool, and here is the doctor. The patient is anxious, is stressed, right? So how can we, the system that sits in between the patient and the doctor, how can we build confidence, trust, and ease their anxiety, their fear, right? That is a very important thing. So with AI, we can do a number of things for the patients. We can personalize, and based on the demographics, the health condition, and that would help the patient so much. And there are so many other things that can be done. Multisensory design. It was a point that in applications, for example, digital application, it was very text heavy. But nowadays, we like to talk to the systems, right? We want to have a human-like experience. So something that would, of course, enhance the experience. So that is something for us to think about. And what can we borrow for augmented reality, from virtual reality application that we can use in the healthcare products? This is important, sustainable and ethical design. As designers, we should be socially responsible. What happens after the life cycle of the product? Do we just dump it in somebody's yard, backyard, or in the ocean, river? What do we do with those products? That is one thing, right? The other thing is when we are designing this space, unnecessarily, we don't want to consume the user's precious mental energy, right? We don't want to use our energy if we don't have to. So that is something we have to think about. Okay, how much time do we have? Okay, can I go through a few more slides? Or we'll stop for.
We have about 5 minutes left, so.
Okay. Okay, I'll quickly go over. If we had to redesign a medication reminder app, right? So there are, basically, I would like you be aware that in designing a product, it's much more complex than what we think it is. We have to think about the goal purpose. We have to understand the users. In the construction phase of the digital application, for example, we have to think about functionality, interaction design, information architecture, how we organize, structure information. Each of this is like a course technology. We have to think about inclusive design. We have to think about semiotics. And then we have to think about the nature of the engagement. We have to think about the experience. There are different types of experiences, and it works in stages. And then, depending on the app, are we asking them to learn only or retain, apply? What do we want? And the takeaway. If the takeaway is not good, they're not going to come back, right? So we have to think about that. We can use some sort of methodology, for example, the design thinking methodology, which is an iterative process. It has 5 steps to it: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. In fact, next month, in our next talk, we'll be focusing on this. And we have to think about the patient journey. When the patient is going through the system, the healthcare, there is a lot of things going on, right? They have to meet with the doctor for the diagnosis, treatment, recovery, and follow up. They're basically going in this through this emotional roller coaster ride. So how could this software, for example, if it is a software, how could it help to provide the reassurance to help them to cope with this? So with all these triggers I was talking about, we have to think about the patient empathy map, says, does, feels, thinks. We collect the data in so many different ways. Qualitative research, you interview people, collect data. And then there is the behavioral. When they use certain systems, we observe them, collect data. But then how they feel, that is tricky. So that is for what is happening with the blood pressure, heart rate, all those things, emotions. There are tools now which can read your mind, for example, Morphcast and Affectiva. So when we are sad or happy, there are so many different muscles on the face, right? We don't have control over it, and it activates. So this software using AI, it can identify what is happening with your emotions. So that is very, very interesting. So if we are thinking about a holistic, these are each individual courses, in fact. I'll go to this, measuring the experience. So physiological testing is very much possible now. What somebody cannot explain, cannot say, for example, you go for therapy. They ask you, what is the level of your pain, right? 1 to 10. We don't know. What is 5? What is 4? What is 3, right? So there are tools which can be very objective in finding out. So this is a holistic, to design the experience from the holistic standpoint, there are so many things involved. I'll just leave you with this. This is from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limit in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult or worthwhile. Thank you.